Hello and welcome to Bulldog Tales. My name is Dan Monahan and I'm here with two of the varsity wrestlers this year, John Schrate and Eduardo Orejuela. The wrestling team just finished their regionals this past weekend and 5 of the wrestlers made it to sectionals. They'll compete this coming weekend at Lincoln Way West. And so we brought John and Eduardo here to talk to us a little bit about the wrestling program. So I'll start with you, John. When did you start wrestling?
It was 6th grade. I started with the Falcon Junior program. I did that for a year. I got my butt kicked and I stopped. And then I started back up in high school again.
Okay, now is that a feeder program for RB here?
No, the Falcons was a program for Fenwick. They had the Junior Bulldogs here, but I went over to Fenwick and wrestled with them for a while.
All right. And Eduardo, did you wrestle before high school at all?
No, I was in a little program. I just started my freshman year.
Okay.
So.
All right, and back to you, John, then. Since you've wrestled throughout your high school career, what impact has wrestling had on you, both physically and mentally, over these 4 years?
Well, physically, it gets you in probably the best shape of your life. I mean, during the season, I'm always, working harder than I've ever been in other sports. And mentally, it just makes me more of a disciplined person, keeps me strict, whether if it's my weight or my homework, it just keeps me more disciplined, in life.
So you see an academic connection as well to being part of the wrestling program over these years?
Definitely. My grades are somewhat better during the wrestling season than they are in the other 2 sports.
All right. And Eduardo, you said you didn't wrestle till you got to high school. So
yeah.
What's the difference between the way you see yourself, before you started wrestling and now here 4 years later?
I don't really see a big difference. More tone. Yeah, just more athletic too. I didn't really do a lot of sports. It's intense sports. So.
Do you see then wrestling in high school as something that would benefit you in the years to come? I mean, what things do you take out of being part of a wrestling team that would serve you well as you grow into adulthood?
Well, for ours, I mean, I've had a lot of different coaches for ours. I've had 3 different coaches. So I mean, just go with it. Don't let it bother you, I guess. And well, I'm gonna wrestle in college too, so that'll help me a lot.
Okay.
And yeah.
John, what do you think as far as your future goes? Do you see things that you learned in wrestling that would be things that you could take with you as you get older and go into college and beyond?
Yeah, it just made me a better person in general. Like I said, discipline, dedication, just taught me how to be strict, and it taught me also how to push my body to the limit, whereas in other sports I really didn't get that far, but with wrestling it really made me figure out how far I can really push myself in sports.
Okay. Eduardo, you had mentioned that you're going to wrestle in college, so where exactly are you going? Do you know yet? Or
I haven't really made a decision. Coach K, he's calling a few people for me, so we'll see if they look into it. I gotta make a highlight video and stuff. So.
Okay, John, do you have intentions of wrestling beyond high school?
Definitely, yes. The 2 schools that are most interested right now are Augustana and Lakeland, and those 2 are probably the 2 I'm probably going to consider coming down to, depending on how this weekend and hopefully next weekend, the state tournament, pans out.
Right. Now, athletically, do you guys participate in other sports? John, I know you're in football. Any other sports besides football?
Track in the spring, and then spring, summer wrestling also. So. Wrestling's a year-round sport. Okay. For me.
Eduardo, any other things?
Yeah, I'll wrestle year-round, and then I'll just probably do jiu-jitsu and MMA stuff again.
Now, jiu-jitsu, does that help you as well with your wrestling, do you feel?
It was more like wrestling helped jiu-jitsu, because I just started jiu-jitsu a year ago, so then my wrestling just helped me do better in jiu-jitsu instead of the other way around.
Okay.
So yeah.
Both of you guys are 4-year wrestlers, and so John, I'll come back to you. What would you call your favorite moment up to this point? Obviously, hopefully you guys do well in sectionals and maybe even the state tournament if you get through this weekend. But up to this point, what would you consider to be one of your favorite moments so far as being part of the wrestling program?
I have 2. One being part of the regional championship as sophomore. I didn't wrestle, but I was still part of the team, so that just meant a lot to me. And then last year as a junior, qualifying for state was probably the best thing that has ever happened to me in wrestling. My semifinal match, I won 8-3, and that took me to the finals to end up going to state. So that was probably the biggest moment for me in wrestling.
Now, do you feel that that is getting as far as you did last year? Does that drive you this year to want to get even further than you did last year?
Definitely, I want to place at state. You know, my goal is to win, but we have what most would say is the toughest sectional in the state, and making out of that, anything's possible.
Yeah.
All right, so back to you then. What about you as far as favorite moments over your 4 years?
My favorite would probably be my sophomore year too. I placed first in regionals, so that was like a big accomplishment for me. And just when we went to state, I didn't qualify for state, but I went with them and I saw how they wrestled, and it was just live, like it was insane. So I want to be a part of that this year. So.
Okay, great. Coach DeGetti, who was a coach a couple years ago, came back this year and has helped you guys out here down the stretch. So what impact has Coach DeGetti had on the wrestling team? John, I'll start with you. How do you feel Coach DeGetti has impacted you here down the stretch this last month or so, being part of the program?
I'm thankful that he came in and took over in kind of a sticky situation. I'm glad that he's there. He's been there before. He knows how to push us. He knows how to make us work hard, and I'm grateful for that we have someone help us to push us.
All right, Eduardo, how do you feel about having Coach DeGetti around again?
Yeah, same. If it was anybody else, it probably would have sucked. Cause yeah, I mean, I like Coach DeGetti a lot. He's really cool. So, and he knows a lot of us. He knows how we wrestle. So.
All right, and I'll give both of you guys a chance here. I'll start with John. You said you went downstate last year. Can you explain to people who've maybe never been downstate? I've been down there once a long time ago to watch what the wrestling state tournament's like. Can you tell people what it's like when you go down there?
Well, you're wrestling at the University of Illinois in Assembly Hall. There's 6 mats, and it's the greatest atmosphere I've ever been part of. And you warm up in the tunnel. You don't even get to really do anything. You just stand there. You're next to your opponent, and you just wait until your match is ready, and then you go out there in front of about 20,000 people and just wrestle in the biggest spotlight in the state. And personally, I wasn't nervous. I was raring to go, and looking forward to it, and that just makes me want to get there even more this year and place.
And you said you were down there as well last year?
Yeah, it was insane. It was like a coliseum. Like all the mats are like in one spot, and then all the seats. It was just crazy. It was a lot of screaming, a lot of.
All right, well, listen, I want to wish you guys both really good luck at the sectional, as well as the other 3 wrestlers that will be with you. Make RB proud. And thank you guys for being on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And this is it for this segment of Bulldog Tales. We'll be right back with more Bulldog Tales after these messages.